Hey guys, tonight we're tuning into something strange. No warning, no flicker, no final beep, just silence. Absolute, measured, terrifying silence. It started this morning, or what we think was morning. The sun was up, casting those usual long streaks through the trees. But something felt wrong. You felt it too, didn't you? That moment when you glanced at your wrist, or your microwave, or your phone, and every number stared back like a painting, like a joke, like they'd forgotten how to move. Every clock in the world has stopped. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Time didn't stop because of an explosion. There were no nuclear warnings, no solar flares, no AI wars, just a quiet, universal freeze, like the entire planet forgot to breathe for a second, and then didn't start again. Go ahead and comment your location and your local time, whatever your clock still says. Even if it means nothing now, it's something to hold.
Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together.
The last second on my wall clock still reads 6:37:02. The second hand is paused at the 2. You check your own. It's identical, 6:37:02.
The news called it a global chronostal, but that's a mouthful for something so quiet. People are calling it the final tick.
Even the radio station's atomic sync display froze. Still lit, still alive, but not moving. It's as if time didn't just stop. It walked away. And in the stillness, a fact creeps in. You step outside, hoping it's just a power issue. The neighborhood looks normal at first. Birds chirp, trees sway. But then you realize the birds aren't going anywhere. They chirp once, then again, the same pattern, and again. 3 identical chirps, looped like a glitched track. The trees sway, but the leaves don't fall. The wind moves, but the air doesn't cool your skin. The earth is still rotating. You can feel it in your bones. A subtle tug, shadows inching forward, very slowly, which means the planet hasn't frozen, just time. Scientists are scrambling. What few remain in front of cameras. Anyway, some say it's a mass perceptual event, like a neurological virus affecting human perception of time. But that doesn't explain the stopped clocks. You head toward the old clock tower. Others say it's cosmic, a hiccup in the flow of chronons, theoretical particles of time. Most people ignore that theory because, well, it sounds ridiculous. But when your car's dashboard and your wristwatch and the church tower down the road all freeze at the same number, you start to wonder if maybe time is made of something that can break. It's one of those ornate ones, tall and dusty. It hasn't worked in years. Not properly, but even it has frozen. At 6:37:02, the pendulum is suspended mid-swing, as if the weight just decided to give up halfway through. Someone else is standing there, an old man. He doesn't speak, just looks at you, then back at the frozen hands. He taps his pocket and shows you his watch. Same time. He doesn't look surprised, just tired. You walk together without speaking. Not because there's nothing to say, but because speech feels irrelevant now. Language is measured in seconds. Pause, speak, pause. But if seconds don't move, what's the rhythm? You pass an elementary school. The bell rang hours ago. Its sound still echoing faintly from the halls. Or maybe that's just your mind trying to fill the silence. On a whim, you tune your radio. That's when you hear us. This station, still running, still talking, still alive in a world where nothing ticks. We're broadcasting manually now. No schedule, no shows, no commercials, just voices, one after another, reading memories, weather reports that don't change, music that only plays when someone sings it live, not just paused, flat, like it's waiting for time to restart before it remembers how to be heard. Because recorded music, it's broken too. One of our engineers, Clara, said something earlier that keeps ringing in my head. Outside, in the streets, people are adjusting. Maybe time isn't a constant. Maybe it's a privilege. She laughed after. But it didn't feel like a joke. Meals aren't timed. People eat when they feel hungry, sleep when they feel heavy. Businesses have turned their clocks around, painting over digital displays with words like whenever and now, birthdays. But there's one thing no one's figured out. Children are asking, am I still 9 or am I 10 now? No one knows when to celebrate anymore. There are no answers. Scientists still debate whether this is a global perceptual phenomenon or a breakdown in the timekeeping systems that shape civilization. But even if the earth still turns and your pulse still thuds in your wrist, without clocks, time is felt, not counted. That's where you are now, a world between pulses, and it's only just beginning. Not blinding, not warm, just consistent, the kind of light that makes you feel like it's been the same time of day forever. No golden hour, no shadow stretching, no signal that anything is winding down. It's still bright out. You squint up at the sun, hoping for a change. But it's there, pinned in place, like a photograph pasted to the sky. You check again. Wristwatch, phone, microwave, still frozen at 6:37:02. Of course it is. Welcome to frozen moonlight. The streets around you have adopted a sort of quiet resignation. People have stopped checking their clocks. What's the point? Instead, they've started measuring time with things like hunger, fatigue, boredom, and how long it takes for the wind to cross a parking lot. You walk toward the edge of town, where the buildings give way to long fields and utility poles. Even the power lines seem paused in mid-sway, vibrating slightly, but going nowhere. You pass a man watering his garden with a slow, steady rhythm, like he's trying to reenact a routine that no longer matters. He smiles at you, like this is normal now. And maybe it is. You pass a church. The bell is stuck halfway between up and down in its swing, like it tried to ring at the moment. Everything stopped, but didn't quite make it. Inside, a chalkboard once marked the time for service. Now it reads, "Service begins when we feel it should." There's something strangely comforting about that. A quiet freedom in the absence of structure. But you miss the old tick, that soft rhythm that told you how late you were, how long to wait, when to sleep. It was annoying, sure, but it was there. And now, it's gone.
You look at your shadow. It's exactly the same length as it was hours ago. No stretch, no drift.
You're still in frozen noon. The local scientist, a meteorologist named Rishi, called in earlier with an update. He said, the sun hasn't moved more than 0.004 degrees in over 12 hours, but weather patterns are still trying to behave like nothing happened. Rain clouds form, but they don't move. Winds pick up, then vanish mid-sigh. It's as if the sky itself is trying to remember how to flow. Some say the sun isn't the sun anymore, and we're under something else. Something pretending to be it. A projection, a replacement, a placeholder light source, until someone restarts whatever machine was ticking beneath reality. Fringe groups believe this is the solar lock. A theorized event where the Earth no longer rotates in perception, only in physics. They claim it's a shift, not in the planet, but in the observer. That human consciousness has desynchronized from planetary time. In simpler terms, the Earth's still spinning. We are just not feeling it. It's nonsense. Probably, but it's the kind of nonsense that doesn't sound so wild when the sun hasn't moved all day. You pass a kid drawing a chalk sundial on the sidewalk. You stop to watch. He checks it every few minutes, measuring the shadow, recording the angle. It hasn't changed once. Back at the station, we've moved our operations to analog, no digital timers, no countdowns, just feeling our way forward. Still, he keeps checking. Hope is stubborn that way. You'd think it would be chaos, but it's quieter now. There's a rhythm to it. People knock before speaking, breathe in sync, wait a few heartbeats before replying. Conversations are slower, like the world has slipped into low tide. For timing, not for light. We've started using candles instead of lamps. 1 inch of wax, 1 segment of a song. 3 inches, a story. Burn a candle through, and you know it's time to start again. It's crude, but it works. Sometimes you don't need precision, just movement. Scientists still debate whether this is a breakdown of physics, perception, or shared hallucination, but they all agree on one thing. This isn't local. Satellites aren't updating. Some say we should build a new system. New hours, new ways of knowing when things begin and end. But most people aren't rushing to fix it. GPS doesn't drift, it just locks. One scientist described it like every clock tower in the world holding its breath. They're walking slower, talking softer, waiting. We're in a world with no time, and somehow that feels restful. Unsettling, yes, but also gentle. You look around, and for the first time in days, no one seems in a hurry. No one's early. No one's late.
They're just here.
And so are you! In a world that forgot how to measure, standing in a light that refuses to change, but not how to notice. It used to show ads for coffee and insurance and weekend getaways. Now it's blank. Not vandalized, just blank. The digital panel is still powered, but the screen glows white. A frozen canvas with no message, no time slot, no cycle. You pass a billboard on the edge of the freeway. You pause, staring at it. It almost feels like it's waiting for something to say. Welcome to the cities without hours. You walk into the city center, and most people, they're not listening to their bodies yet. The overpasses are still full of cars, but they're parked, not broken, just unused. Without rush hour, there's no rush. Without meetings, there's no movement. Without clocks, there's no reason to go anywhere, unless your body tells you it's time. The neon signs blink sporadically, not in rhythm, but in tired flutters, like they're unsure if they should still try. A massive LED banner across a high-rise scrolls the same message on loop. Current time. 99.99. Stay safe. Stay still. It's oddly comforting. You pass a grocery store. Its automatic doors still work, but they take longer to respond, like even the sensors have slowed down. Elevators have become resting places. Subway platforms are now libraries. Office towers hold pockets of silent workers who no longer type, but sit near windows and stare out at the unmoving sun, sipping room temperature coffee. Inside, no music plays. The freezers hum softly. Everything feels like a still life. Fruits too bright, aisles too neat, shoppers wandering without baskets, stopping to read cereal boxes without buying them. A cashier is reading a novel aloud. She doesn't look up. You walk past her voice, like it's a warm breeze. No one knows when dinner is anymore. The city is quiet. You find yourself whispering, even though there's no one nearby.
Not abandoned, just soft.
A digital bus sign flashes. The pigeons have stopped scattering. They waddle slow and uncertain, as if searching for invisible breadcrumbs on invisible schedules, arriving in infinite minutes. Even the jokes have become ritual now. A fringe collective has taken over the city clock tower. You've probably heard of them. The Order of the Empty Hour. They don't believe time has stopped. They believe time left. No one laughs. Voluntarily, time was a guest in the house of motion, and we stopped sweeping. Their central claim: they've wrapped the base of the tower in copper wiring and call it a temporal nest. Every evening, they sing old train station announcements into a microphone and wait for the tower hands to twitch. They never do, but they keep singing. Elsewhere on rooftops, people sit with sundials, not to read them, just to remember how they worked. There's a theory, unconfirmed but gaining traction, that certain systems, smart lights, synchronized intersections, traffic management AI, are entering drift mode. Scientists still debate whether city infrastructure is failing naturally or subconsciously, whether systems are slowing down due to human inattention, or if the very circuits and sensors tied to timing have lost their function. But very calm chaos. Chaos, technically, which means without time inputs, they're making random decisions at irregular intervals. You pass a hotel, the marquee reads, check in, whenever, check out, never.
There's a bench across the street.
You sit, not because you're tired, but because, why not? You eat it. A woman sits beside you, eventually. She offers you a grape from a half-empty plastic bag. You don't speak, and neither does she. Somewhere in the distance, a pre-recorded announcement plays over city speakers, a voice you used to associate with security drills and scheduled power outages. But now it just says, you stand and keep walking. This is your reminder that everything is still. We suggest you enjoy it. And as you pass the intersection, you notice something. Every single one. No red. All the streetlights are green. And yet, no one moves. No yellow. Just go. Because where would they go? It's dreaming. The city isn't dead. By breath, waiting to be woken up. Not by alarms or calendars, but by feeling. By hunger. It exists. By choice. Until then, like you, upright, drifting. You look up, listening. You reach the outskirts of the city, where buildings begin to thin and the skyline fades into distant hills. Here, the silence deepens. Not absence, exactly, but a different kind of hush. Not urban quiet, but celestial reluctance. But they're not moving. The clouds are still there, not in the usual way. No fast sweeps across the sky, no play between layers, just a hanging heaviness, like the sky is holding something in.
Welcome to the skies.
Reluctance. You watch for minutes, maybe hours, who knows anymore, and the clouds don't shift. They billow in place, as if posed by some divine photographer. A pale cirrus frozen mid-sweep, a cumulus puff that's held its breath too long. They look like they were interrupted, the kind of formations you'd expect before a storm, except the storm never arrives. You pass under power lines. They hum faintly in the still air, but even the birds resting on them don't flutter, just stare. Not at you, at nothing, like statues molded from instinct. There's a radio tower nearby, one of the few still running. Its blinking light usually cycles every 4 seconds. Now it glows solid red. No pulse, just a silent alarm that's forgotten how to repeat. Still here, you sit beneath it and tune your radio to our signal again. Still broadcasting. One of our volunteers called in earlier from the mountaintops north of here. Said, "I swear the clouds are too heavy to fall." She's not wrong. The moisture content is unusually high. We checked the satellite data, what little we can access, and confirmed it. Full of water, they can let go. The clouds are swollen. It's as if they've lost track of time too. Don't remember when to rain, or how. One scientist, an atmospheric physicist named Leon, suggests the troposphere has lost kinetic direction, that without time signals regulating temperature gradients, convection stalls. In short, the sky has stage fright. Fringe thinkers offer something stranger. They believe the clouds are hiding something, not out of malice, but protection, that somewhere above them is a sky wound, a tear in the atmosphere where time fell through, that the clouds are clustering around it, like tissue around a bruise. They point to strange iridescent halos seen above former airports and coastal hills, colors that don't correspond to usual spectrums. No red, no violet, just soft tones of gray-green and dust blue. They say those are the edges of the wound. A breeze brushes your cheek. You keep walking, eyes skyward. The clouds seem to lower with every step, not drastically, just subtly, like they're leaning in to listen, but it doesn't continue. Just one breath. You reach a weather station, one of those small, squat buildings on a hill, with sensors, dishes, and an old analog windmill. Then, nothing. Once, then stops. Windmill turns. You touch it. It's not broken, just unwilling. Wind velocity. Patient. Someone wrote on it. Inside, there's a chalkboard. You chuckle. It's the first sound you've made all day that isn't your own breath. Outside, you sit again.
Not because you're tired, but because that's what people do now when the sky becomes too still.
You listen. No thunder. No distant engines. No jets. And then, just beneath your hearing, something else. Just the occasional crack of a tree branch adjusting in the lightless heat. A low hum. Faint. Wide. Not mechanical. Not electrical. We've picked it up here at the station too. Comes in through our long-range antennae. Doesn't register on the dial. Can't be tuned. Just is. More like static stretched thin. Some believe it's the Earth's magnetosphere, flickering without time's rhythm. Others believe it's the sound of light waiting to move. One theory says photons are being produced, but not transmitted, frozen between emission and reception.
That means the light you see, it might be old.
You wonder if the clouds are aware of this.
Not ancient, just stuck.
If they know they've been painted into place by the collapse of chronology.
You lie back in the grass.
It doesn't feel warm. If they're mourning the rain they once knew how to give. It doesn't feel cool. And above you, the sky keeps watching. Just there, waiting. Still, pale. There's a village not far from here. You wander into it just as the light begins to shift. Not dim, not brighter, just slightly grayer, like someone turned down the contrast on the world.
This is where you start to feel it.
Not the collapse of time exactly, but the absence of rhythm, the loss of pulse. The kind of thing you never noticed when you had alarms, calendars, lunch breaks, bedtime. This village hasn't had a proper day in, well, no one knows anymore. Welcome to the sleepless town. You step into a narrow street, lined with stone houses. Curtains hang, unmoving. Wind chimes dangle from door frames, but they don't chime, Just wait. The people are awake here. Some sit on porches. Some lean out of windows. But none of them are sleeping. Some wander, barefoot, wrapped in blankets. And none of them seem especially awake either. There's a man sketching a tree that hasn't moved in days. He's drawn the same branch 14 times, trying to catch the moment it shifts. It never does, but he keeps drawing anyway, just in case it does tomorrow or yesterday. A girl plays hopscotch alone. Her chalk boxes are stretched out far too long. When you look closer, you see each one is labeled not with numbers, but words. Hunger, rest, easy, cheer, wake, forgotten, begin. She skips all of them, then sits down. You wave, she waves back. No one here wears watches. Not anymore. One of the residents offers you a place to sit, a mug of something warm. You sip. The church clock tower was taken down days ago, dismantled brick by brick so it wouldn't cast a false authority over the square. They replaced it with a circle of stones. People sit around it and speak softly when they feel it's evening. They call it the Hour Garden. It has no name, but it feels appropriate. And no taste. Someone else murmurs. Sometimes we lie down and blink longer than usual. It's enough. You ask? When they sleep, a woman shrugs and says, when I forget I'm awake, you walk into what used to be a school. The chalkboards have drawings of suns and moons all jumbled together.
The teacher, still there, greets you. She says,
she invites you to sit in the back and listen to today's lesson, breathing in sync with the wind.
We've stopped teaching the difference between before and after. Now we only use the word while.
You stay, and for a moment, the classroom feels like a boat drifting in still waters. No motor, no paddles, just air. Outside, laundry hangs, but never dries. Roosters crow, but no one feeds them. They aren't hungry. They're just remembering. One letter reads,
I hope this reaches you at a time you understand.
the post office delivers mail with no date stamps. There's no mailman, just a basket and a belief. Scientists still debate whether sleeplessness is psychological or biochemical, whether the circadian rhythm has been broken at the DNA level, or whether society has simply detached from the idea of rest. One theory, circulating in soft-spoken corners, claims that dreams were tied to time, and with time broken, sleep became purposeless, that REM cycles were keys, and now the locks are gone. A poet who stayed in the village for a while scrawled a line on the side of the bakery. We used to chase morning, now it waits behind every blink. You keep walking and notice something else. No one yawns. They look tired. Yes, but no one yawns. No one asks what time it is. No one stretches, because no one believes in later. You stand at the edge of the village. Beyond it, the world continues. More towns, more questions, more stillness. A man is painting the same mural on the wall every day, resetting it, changing it, erasing it again. But for now, you take one more look back. Today, it's a sundial. Tomorrow, who knows? You step forward into the grass. Somewhere behind you, a bell doesn't ring. And ahead, only the long, patient silence of a world, unmeasured. As you leave the sleepless town behind, the road narrows into something more like a trail, faint, cracked, sun-bleached. There are no markers, no signs, just instinct and guesswork. You follow it anyway. Somewhere between two empty villages, you begin to notice something peculiar. Your footsteps feel wrong.
no one really travels anymore, not in the way they used to. With tickets, with departures and arrivals, Now it's just walking, moving when your legs want to stretch, stopping when the silence gets too big to carry.
Welcome to the place where echoes stretch. Not your feet exactly, but the sound of them. You stop and stomp the ground gently. The sound takes a full second longer than it should to come back. You do it again. Same delay. You clap once, loud, sharp. The echo returns not once, but twice, and with the second one oddly flattened, as if the air is no longer sure how to carry noise. It's like the world is trying to remember how sound behaves. Further ahead, you pass a cluster of abandoned cabins. Wind brushes through a broken window, but you don't hear it until you've already walked past. It's as if cause and effect have drifted apart.
Do check your radio.
Still static, still us, still broadcasting, but even the voices feel slightly behind. You adjust the dial, thinking maybe the signal is off, but it's not. It's everything else. Earlier today, we received a voice log from a remote monitoring station in the Carpathians. The operator said, "I heard myself coughing 30 seconds after I coughed. Not through a radio, just through the air." He didn't sound scared, just tired. Here at the station, we've done some tests of our own, played tones into the canyon, timed the echoes. The numbers don't make sense anymore. Short distances take longer than long ones. Some sounds just don't come back at all. Scientists still debate what's happening. Some believe the sound delay is due to air density changes, microshifts in molecular behavior now that time no longer anchors vibration consistently. Others say space itself is stretching like taffy pulled just enough to distort memory, sound, and sequence. And then there are the fringe voices. They say echoes are trying to escape the present, that once time collapsed, everything that once was began looking for a way out. Starting with sound, you pass a fallen satellite dish. On its cracked surface, someone has written in charcoal, "Everything we say now is future tense." You speak aloud just to test it. Your voice returns 3 seconds later in a softer version, like someone trying to remember how you sound. It unnerves you, so you stop speaking. From here on, even your breath feels delayed. You exhale, then hear the air move after. The grass crunches half a step too late, and then you see them, stone markers arranged in a spiral, each one carved with a single word. Sound, voice, whisper, return. At the center, a large slab, story. This is where the last echo arrived. It reads, you don't know who placed it, or when. You just stand there in the spiral and whisper something small. The echo comes back, not once, but 3 times. The first sounds like you. The third doesn't sound like you at all. The second sounds tired. You keep moving. Further ahead, a ravine opens, narrow, shallow, dry. At the bottom, piles of old radios sit in a nest of wire and rust. Some are still powered, some flicker. One of them is playing a broadcast from this very station. You listen closely. It's not now. We don't archive them. It's yesterday's recording. And yet, there it is, playing back something we haven't reached yet. A voice, your voice, saying, this is the moment, just before. Just before what? The ravine offers no answer. You climb out, shaken, but not afraid. The wind begins to pick up again. You clap. The echo doesn't return. It just keeps going. A sound stretched too far to find its way back. You take one more breath, long and low, and whisper, and the answer comes 5 seconds later. Still listening. Not from you. You've been walking for a while now, Or maybe it's only been a few minutes or days. It's hard to say and harder to care. The world isn't keeping count anymore, and neither are you. But from somewhere behind the sky, you notice something strange in the sky, and then you hear it. Wings. A small spiral, barely visible. A slow arc of movement that breaks the stillness. You squint, uncertain if it's real. Slow, rhythmic, deliberate. Welcome to the slow spiral of birds. You follow the sound, stepping out from a patch of pines into a wide clearing. Above you, circling endlessly, is a flock, hundreds, maybe more. Not flying in the chaotic darting of migration or storm response, but in an unbroken spiral, like smoke trapped in a glass dome. You tilt your head. They aren't rising or falling, just looping. No calls, no chatter, just feathers, cutting through air that doesn't push back. There's something solemn in their formation. Not robotic, not frantic, just tired. Like they've been up there since time failed to give them a landing window. You sit in the grass and watch. They move like a clock that no longer tells time, only shape. A local ranger, if you can still call her that, sent us a voice note yesterday. Said, the birds in Sector 9 won't land. They just keep circling the field like they forgot what ground is. Reports are coming in from across the world. Seagulls above oceans that don't ebb. Crows over cities but don't darken. Starlings above hillsides with no sunset to signal rest. She's not alone. And it's not just birds. Drones, weather balloons, even some planes, those that weren't grounded before the collapse, are still in the air, orbiting, drifting, awaiting signals that no longer come. One plane was seen over 4 cities last week. Same altitude, same path, no pilot, just looping. But others say this isn't malfunction. Scientists suggest that without time pulses from satellites, GPS navigation systems are stuck in hold patterns. It's not the software's fault. It's the absence of a when. That the birds are mimicking the movement of the stars they used to follow. It's instinct. That, in the absence of time, their inner compasses default to spirals. The pattern of galaxies, whirlpools, tornadoes, the dance of anything lost. A man approaches from the trail. His arms are painted in black ink, feathers drawn along the bones, like wings. He sits beside you without speaking, then opens a small notebook. You glance up again. The spiral hasn't tightened, hasn't widened. It's perfect. Sustained. Inside, sketches, all looping, of birds. Yes, but also fish, clouds, rivers. Then closes the book and leaves, all caught in the same curl. He points upward and whispers, they're trying to land where time is. You stay, not because you're waiting for something to happen, but because something is happening, and the only way to witness it is to stay still. We've received a shortwave transmission from an island research station. The last line of the log simply reads, some say the birds are asleep mid-air, that their brains have adapted to drifting without REM, without cycles. No birds on the ground in 3 days, but we hear their wings in our sleep, just wind puppets trapped in a memory of movement. Here at the station, we've aimed one of our old parabolic mics at the sky. Others say they're not alive anymore. Then slow them down. We record the flaps at 1/10 speed. The sound is like breathing. At 1/100th, it's a heartbeat. We played it last night. The room went quiet, but because it was familiar, not because it was eerie, like something once shared and long forgotten. So now we wonder, Are the birds spiraling because they're lost, or because they've found the only rhythm that still exists? One feather drifts down from above. You lie back in the grass. The wind brushes your skin, barely there. It's warm, not from the sun. You catch it, but from effort. You can rest. You hold it in your hand and whisper, and neither do they. But the sky doesn't change. There's a sound ahead, a soft ticking. Your first thought, a clock. But it's not. You follow it through a grove of brittle trees, leaves unmoved, air stale. The ground crunches beneath your boots, like glass too tired to shatter. Still ticking. There, half buried in dry soil, you find it, a wristwatch, backward. You pick it up carefully. The hands aren't rushing. They move gently, patiently, as if they know exactly where they're going, even if that direction is wrong. Welcome to the place of the watches that tick backward. Watches nailed to trees. Watches strung up with fishing line between fence posts. Watches hanging from abandoned clotheslines like wind chimes. All of them ticking, all in reverse. As you step into the clearing, you notice more. It's not just one, each ticking its own little path into a past no one can return to. No one's around, but someone put them here. We've heard about these. Now, across the globe, random analog watches have started functioning again, but only in reverse. Most were broken before the collapse, long dead, batteryless, some rusted shut. They're moving, no energy source, no consistent brand, no central signal. Scientists can't explain it, just backward time. Another theory. One theory suggests that mechanical systems trapped in entropy loops have begun to unwind, now that time no longer flows forward, like they were always rubber bands stretched too tight, and now they're releasing. They're listening. That time, if it is a thing, is aware, and these watches are its slow apology, trying to undo what it can't repair. You strap one of the watches to your wrist. At first, it feels like a joke. You sit on an old bench nearby, cracked and covered in moss. Then after a few minutes, it starts to feel like truth, like you're not moving forward anymore, just soft stepping back into something gentler, simpler, slower. The trees don't rustle. The sun hasn't shifted. And with each click, you feel yourself loosening. But the watch ticks. I remembered next week before I forgot yesterday. One caller from Norway said, "We've received transmissions from people who've worn these watches for too long. They speak in strange ways, using past tense to describe things that haven't happened yet. They reference memories no one else shares. The belief that these watches are allowing people to sync with the previous state of the universe, that the forward flow of time was artificial, that going backward is truer. Fringe thinkers have named it reverse anchoring. Of course, not everyone agrees. A technician from Argentina smashed hers with a rock after 5 hours of wearing it, said she saw herself aging in reverse every time she looked in a mirror. Not her face, her decisions. She described standing still, but feeling undone, like her life was unbuilding itself one choice at a time. But you don't feel that. You just feel steady. The ticks are soothing, soft, measured. In the distance, a bell tower chimes, like footsteps through sand. 5 turns, then silence, backwards. A moment later, it chimes again. 4 turns, then 3. Somewhere, time is counting down. You look up. No change in your breath, no change in the sky, just the slow unwinding of something ancient and patient. A child walks past, maybe 7 years old, wearing a coat 5 sizes too big, no shoes. You hear a rustle behind you. holds out her hand. She stops in front of you. You give her the watch. She nods once, then walks away, the watch ticking softly in her palm. As she disappears down the path, you realize she just knew. She never looked at it. There's a coast up ahead. Now it's just a long, crumbling edge of salt and silence. You walk toward the lighthouse perched at the tip of the land, its tower rising from cracked stone like a burn left to dry. Its light is on. At least it used to be. Welcome to the lighthouse that won't blink, but it doesn't turn. It's been beaming in the same direction for days now. Maybe weeks. A steady cone of brightness. Unmoving, unwavering, illuminating a stretch of dead ocean floor where no ships will ever return. The lighthouse was meant to rotate every 11 seconds. That's what the old records say. We checked. Even before the collapse of time, it had slowed. Now, it just stares. You approach slowly. The wind is still. The air smells like rust and stale brine. Seaweed clings to rocks far above where the tide line used to be, like someone forgot to take down decorations from a festival that ended too long ago. The beam slices through the fog like a blade that never moves, casting permanent shadows on the rocks below. Seagulls perch in those shadows, but never fly. They look like statues.
You reach the door. It's unlocked, naturally. No one locks anything anymore.
Inside, the air is dense, heavy with salt. It smells like someone tried to clean it once, then gave up halfway through. A small radio sits on a desk near the window. We've received that same signal here at the station over and over. We tried translating it. The message just says, "We're still watching the water." It's playing a loop of Morse code. You climb the spiral stairs. One step creaks, every third stride. You begin to count them out of habit, even though numbers have stopped mattering, even though there's no water left. At the top, the room is filled with dust motes and light. The beam shoots straight out through the glass, frozen mid-turn. You touch the motor housing, still warm. It's alive, just unwilling. That's the strangest part. The light is on, but it casts no movement. Everything it touches becomes fixed, not just illuminated, but caught in place. We've had visitors tell us that standing in that beam feels like being paused, one man said. You sit in the corner, let the light pass over your legs, even though it doesn't move. Your shadow remains still. I blinked and felt like I didn't, as if the light was waiting for something to appear in its path. Another claimed the beam made his heart beat slower, not from fear, from expectation. Scientists still debate whether the lighthouse's beam is responsible for the stagnation in the local atmosphere. One team suggested it's emitting a form of electromagnetic interference that freezes particulate motion. Another theory posits the light isn't reflecting at all, but projecting a memory of light, a snapshot that never updates, that the beam is a signal, not a warning. And of course the fringe theory, that it's aimed not at ships, but at something below, something that remembers the sea, something that's been listening. You step outside again, into the steady white cone. You raise your hand in front of you. Your shadow doesn't flicker, it just is.
Hey, he's been there since you arrived, but you didn't notice him until now.
There's a man sitting at the edge of the cliff.
You walk over and glance at his page.
He has a notebook. He's sketching the horizon.
It's blank,
He says without looking up. You sit beside him. I've been trying to draw the light, but it never lands. The two of you face the dry ocean floor together. Long, cracked plains, stretching as far as the eye can see. Bits of reef stick up like jagged teeth. A distant cargo ship lies on its side, rusted through, its cargo doors yawning open toward nothing. Eventually, he stands and leaves. You both sit in silence. Doesn't need to. The lighthouse keeps staring.
Doesn't say goodbye.
When you start to wonder, what if it's not a beam? What if it's an eye?
What if all this time it's not showing light but looking for something?
Will it blink? And if it finds it, you descend the cliff, slowly. The rocks are warm beneath your hands, though the sun hasn't shifted. There's no time of day anymore, only prolonged illumination. The world glows, like it's caught between memory and forgetting. You reach the basin below, where sea once met land, where waves once folded over themselves in steady rhythm. But now, the only rhythm here is silence. Welcome to the midnight that stayed. This stretch of the planet has been locked in darkness since the moment everything stopped. Not shadowed, not eclipsed, just unchanging night. A vast field of stillness under a star-pinned sky that refuses to turn. At first, people thought it was a regional blackout. Then they realized the sun simply hadn't returned. And now, they've stopped expecting it.
You step onto what used to be the shoreline. Your boots crunch over dry shells, skeletal kelp, salt-streaked driftwood that hasn't drifted in weeks.
The stars above you feel wrong. Too bright, too many, unmoving. It's beautiful, in a way, but eerie, like someone hung up the night sky as decoration and forgot to take it down. We've had reports from this region, shortwave messages from campers, travelers, and others who've drifted into this night and decided not to leave. Some say it's peaceful. They call it the still belt. Others say it's too quiet to be safe. The stars blinked once, just once, then froze. Haven't moved since. I think they're watching. Fringe believers claim this is the original sky. The one before rotation, before time, before calendars. They say the earth has turned her face back to the first night, the one no one remembers. A woman from Alaska sent us a voice log just before her battery died. You switch on your flashlight, even your footsteps sound dampened. It works, but the beam feels swallowed, as if the darkness here isn't absence, but density. Houses, cabins, shacks, all huddled together like they're waiting for warmth that won't come.
You walk until you see them structures.
Some have lanterns glowing inside. Some have fires, no flickering, just steady, candle-like flame. These aren't homes. They're holdouts. You knock on a door. A man opens it slowly. His face is lined with the kind of calm that only comes after surrender. He nods, steps aside. You enter. Inside, dozens of clocks. Every wall, not decorative, all frozen, not synchronized, just gathered. One is stuck at only 1, another at 11:59. A pocket watch, open on the table, reads 3:00 exactly. The man says, none of them stopped at the same time, but they all stopped eventually. We figured, if we put them together, maybe they'd start talking. He chuckles. You chuckle with him. It's a tired sound. You sit in the glow of the unmoving stars and listen. He shows you to a chair, hands you a cup of something lukewarm. You don't ask what it is, then stops. Somewhere in the house, a metronome ticks once. Someone has drawn constellations on the floor in salt. You recognize none of them. You glance outside. You ask the man how long he's been here. He says, I stopped asking when I noticed the moon never rose. He's right. There's no moon. Just the illusion of a moon-shaped space in the sky. Not a glow, just a slightly darker shade of black. Scientists still debate whether this region's darkness is a result of atmospheric failure or celestial lock. The magnetic field here remains stable, But photosynthesis has ceased entirely. Plants are dying. Quietly, respectfully. Still, people remain. Some say the stars offer comfort. We've received audio logs from a crew parked just at the edge of the still belt. They left a mic running overnight. Others say, they whisper, at 3:13 a.m. Not that it matters. They picked up a tone. It lasted exactly 22 seconds. More like a pressure. Not a sound exactly. And then, nothing. Others say it was a greeting. Some say it was a star dying. You step back outside. The night hasn't changed. You check your shadow still visible. Somehow, in the starlight, they whisper into the sky.
Are you still here?
You wait, and for a moment you think the stars answer, not in words, not in motion, just presence, unmoving, patient, unblinking. You don't remember falling asleep, but when you open your eyes again, you're somewhere else. Or maybe it's the same place, just shifted, slide sideways, like a room viewed through frosted glass. The ground beneath you hums, faint and steady, not alive. Exactly, but not dead either. You're in a warehouse. Old, rusted, dust thick in the air like flour. Shafts of light pour through cracked panes above. But they don't move. No flicker, no angle shift. Just solid beams of time-frozen gold. Welcome to the pulse of old machines. And around your machines, you walk slowly between them. Massive metal creatures, all silent function and forgotten purpose. Conveyor belts with no product. Press arms, paused mid-stamp. Rusted cogs aligned too perfectly to be natural. They're not running in the way you'd expect. No grinding, no screeching belts, no shrieking hydraulics. Just hum. A low, ambient drone like someone left all the engines on but forgot the keys. They look tired, but alive. You flip a switch, just out of habit. At the far end, you find a control panel. The dials are frozen, but the indicator lights glow faint orange. The on position. A few machines twitch, or maybe everything does. Nothing happens. Not a full motion, just a shiver, like a body remembering movement in its sleep. We've heard from survivors camped near old industrial zones, textile mills, water plants, obsolete factories, abandoned for decades. They say the machines have started humming again, not working, not producing, just breathing. Some people gather around them like heaters. Others avoid them entirely, never stopped. One group near Dresden found a soda bottling plant that vibrates once every 7 minutes. They measured it for a week, never changed, never sped up. The sound resembles a heartbeat. One theory claims these machines are responding to Earth's own electrical field, which has become unbound from time's pacing. Without our artificial timekeeping, the planet's background rhythm, normally drowned out, has become audible. Another theory says the machines are listening to something. No one knows why. Awaiting. You sit on a stool beside the nearest press. It lets out a soft click. You freeze.
Nothing else follows.
Maybe it was pressure release. You walk deeper into the plant. Or maybe it wasn't. There's a room marked storage. Inside, shelves of clocks. Not watches. Clocks. Some digital, now blank. Some analog, faces missing. All once powered by these machines. And all silent.
Except for one.
In the back, a grandfather clock ticks. Backwards. Just randomly. No, not at all. Pause. Tick, tick. Tick, tick. Pause. It's not counting anything. You leave the clock and find another room. This one stacked with boxes. One box is labeled daily logs. It's just participating. You open it. Each entry has the same stamp, 12 surreal. Every single page. Someone still wanted time to mean something. Someone was still recording. You flip through. The machines aren't dead. They're patient. Then, stop. On one page written in pencil, they remember what we forgot. And below that, you step back outside. The humming follows you for a while, then fades.
You don't look back.
Somewhere in the still air, you'll hear a thud. We've begun recording these machine pulses at the station, amplified, slowed down, reversed. Or maybe it was just your heart. Some listeners say it helps them sleep. We don't know what's being said. Others say it wakes them up, but something's speaking, not with words, but with rhythm. And rhythm, unlike time, still breathes. The road is nothing now. No lane markers, no traffic signs, just faded asphalt veins running through the ribs of a forgotten map. You follow it anyway, because that's what we do, isn't it? Even when the path doesn't know where it's going, we walk. But something's different here. Not in the air, not in the sound. In the walls, posters on bus stops, calendars in broken windows, billboards clinging to rooftops with ghost-strong glue. All of them showing dates, but the paper, it's crumbling. Welcome to the cracking of calendars. You reach into a shattered storefront. There's a family planner hanging behind the counter. One of those big ones with color-coded days, inspirational quotes at the top. You touch it lightly. The paper flakes off in your hand. More like shedding. Like time is sloughing off its dead skin. Not dust. Not rot. You walk further. A gas station marquee still reads, "Next delivery. Tuesday." But the letters are melting. Not from heat, from irrelevance. You step into an old library. The bulletin board has hundreds of event flyers stapled in chaotic layers. Farmers markets, movie nights, community potlucks, all with dates. Every one of them is fading. Not yellowing, vanishing. Somewhere in the back, you find a children's room. There's a felt board with movable numbers. A small sign reads, "Today, someone tried to place a number there." It's lying on the carpet. The space beside it is empty. We've heard of this. They call it chrono paper collapse. A felt 3 curling at the edges. Without time pressure, matter releases the memory of dates. The theory is poetic, if not scientific. But it's not just physical. Something about the chemical compounds in ink and recycled wood pulp. Unstable when temporal reference evaporates. Time has gone fetal. Some programmers built new systems, measured days by candle drips, footstep counts, even petal openings. One community up north created a new week structure: light day, middle day, hush day, float day. Digital calendars are breaking too. Phones crash when you open the date app. Computers show 12 a.m. on 01 phone 1970, stuck in the Unix womb. You remember reading about them. Float day was when no one spoke. Not out of law, just choice. A fringe theory goes further, that time requires witnesses, that calendars were humanity's pact with the universe. Well, mark your passing if you promise to pass. And now with the pact broken, time has stopped showing up. You leave the library. Outside, you see a street mural, a giant clock face painted across an entire intersection. Once meant to be art, now it looks like a wound. Each hour mark has been scrawled over with phrases. 2. Almost. 3. Never again.
1. Not yet.
6. Then again.
Live then.
4. Soon. Still. 7. Still here.
9. Waiting.
10, waiting. 12, waiting. 11, waiting. You pause at the center, right where the hands used to be. You raise your arms out wide and close your eyes.
Nothing happens.
Nothing needs to, but also, we've had listeners write in, sending us photographs of clocks rewritten into poems, of calendars burned ceremonially on rooftops, of datebooks tossed into rivers that no longer flow. At the end, he whispered. One man sent us a recording, just his voice, reading every day like a prayer. And on the final day, nothing came. So we kept going. You reach a bus stop. The schedule reads, next departure, 19. You sit. Someone carved into the metal bench. Departures are a luxury. And above you, a single sheet of newspaper flutters down from a wire and lands at your feet, just existing, not waiting.
The date is blurred.
Tomorrow, still coming. But the headline reads,
Or maybe already here.
the horizon ahead wavers, not with heat, but with uncertainty. It's the kind of place where thoughts start to feel softer, where memory begins to bleed into imagination, and you stop caring about the difference, and beneath it, in handwritten ink, you step off the road. Welcome to the drift of thought. The path doesn't end, it just dissolves. You reach a field, or maybe it's an orchard. The trees are spaced irregularly, bending slightly inward, like they've leaned too long towards something that never arrived. And in the quiet, your mind begins to loosen. Not panic, not confusion, just a gentle slipping. You think about your name. It comes slower than usual. You try to recall what day it was when this all began. Was it a Tuesday or a Sunday? Was there wind that morning? You can't remember. Conversations float in and out. You meet people briefly, then forget their faces as soon as they turn away. The world is like that now. Or maybe you never knew. Birth phrase, a memory, a list of names. You start repeating things to yourself just to anchor, but the words feel thinner every time you say them. We've had listeners describe it as thought echo, ideas that return slower, fainter, like the mind is bouncing off the inside of a canyon with no walls. She read a paragraph aloud, then again. Each time, the words changed slightly, not in content, just tone, rhythm, emphasis. One woman sent us a tape. Simple things, as if the meaning was shifting with each pass. Here at the station, we've started to forget things too. What drawer holds the tape splicer? The name of the volunteer who's been sleeping upstairs. Whether we already aired this transmission or we're still writing it. It's not Alzheimer's. It's not decay. It's ambient memory drift. There's a theory, still fringe, that says we were never meant to remember. In a world without time, that memory is inherently sequential. Without sequence, you can still recall, but not place. Some scientists think the hippocampus, the part of the brain that manages memory, is time-dependent, that without a forward flow, it starts indexing wrong, assigning past feelings to present moments, blending memory and now and ancient. So everything feels recent and maybe imagined, empty. You find a house. Inside, post-it notes cover every surface, scribbled reminders. Don't boil water twice. You fed the cat already. This window is safe. You are still you. Keep reading this. None of them are dated. There's a mirror in the hallway. Words written with marker across it. Did you write this? You look at your reflection. You blink. For a moment, it doesn't look back. It returns. You step outside again, and the world feels softer than it did before. Not weaker, just more willing to be forgotten due to evaporation. We've had callers report strange occurrences, stories half told, then abandoned, people who began speaking and forgot what they were saying mid-sentence, not due to distraction. One man told us, "I buried a time capsule last week. When I went to dig it up, the ground didn't remember it had been disturbed. We didn't know what to say,
So we said nothing.
and he thanked us." You continue walking. You think about someone you loved once, the face, a voice. You can't remember their name. That's all that matters now. But you remember how they made you feel in silence. The wind whispers a phrase,
You don't catch it all.
just the last 2 words. Remember this, but remember what? Or maybe it's you. The trees sway slightly now. You whisper your name again. You sit beneath one. Place your hand on the dirt. It's warm, comforting. It feels like a poem you didn't write.
You're still here.
And that's okay, because even if memory drifts, a soft voice, the path narrows again, this time leading into a patch of tall grass. You move slowly, carefully, not because you're afraid, but because the world here feels attentive, like it's holding its breath. And then you hear her, counting, steady, clear, delicate, like each number is a step on a glass bridge. Welcome to the one who still counts. You follow the sound, pushing gently through the grass until it opens into a clearing. There she is, a child. She's sitting on a blanket, legs crossed, a small notebook in her lap. Her lips move softly with each number.
Maybe 7, maybe 8.
468, 469, 470. She doesn't blink. She doesn't stop to breathe. You watch for a while. She never pauses, never hesitates. The numbers flow from her as naturally as a heartbeat. You kneel nearby, but she doesn't look at you, just keeps counting. At first, you think she's reciting something she memorized, but she's too young, too precise.
And she's too deep into it.
Hours, maybe.
Days. We've heard about her, or someone like her. Reports have come in from across the continent. Children, always alone, always counting, never speaking otherwise, never eating, never moving, just counting, out loud, quietly. Another sat beside an empty fountain in Rome, whispering decimals so faintly, the air barely carried them. One was found on the roof of a firehouse, counting while lightning crawled silently across a frozen sky. They call them the anchors, just what people say.
Not official.
The belief is this, that these children are the reason time hasn't unraveled completely. It's poetic, yes, that they're holding it in place, not to move forward, but to keep it from vanishing. But isn't that what we've always turned to when the science runs out? You watch her mouth, the numbers. You'll mouth them too, a few beats behind, just enough to echo. She doesn't react, but something in the clearing feels steadier.
You check your own pulse.
It's slow, but measured, like the gravity here is firmer. No background noise. You haven't felt that in days. We received an anonymous audio file last week, a recording of a child's voice counting from 1 to 1,000. Just counting. When the file ends, there's a pause. Then a different voice. Calm. Adult. Soft whispers. This is what keeps the earth breathing. Scientists, of course, can't explain it. They argue it's pareidolia. Projection. Desperation. Dressed as mysticism. But one neurologist theorized something fascinating. That children's minds, still unburdened by formal structure, may generate a natural time rhythm, a biological clock that's independent from planetary motion. She called it chronoflux entrainment. The idea that a child could be in sync with a universal tempo that adults can no longer hear. You look back at the girl. She's at A12 now. Still going. Still present. Still so very still. You sit beside her. Not speaking. Not moving. In that space, there's peace. Just being. No demand. No destination. Only the hum of numbers drifting into the dusk. The grass moves slightly. Or maybe it does. The light shifts just a fraction. The count continues. Or maybe your eyes adjusted. And somewhere, faintly, you hear another child. Far away, picking up where this one will eventually leave off. You don't realize how far you've walked until the trees are gone and the earth beneath your feet becomes pale, cracked, and bone dry, not scorched, just emptied. And the world, such as it is, holds. There's light all around you, but none of it is warm. It glows without source, like it's leaking from the very air. But something is off.
There's no warmth.
You've arrived at a place where the sun is still visible, hanging motionless in the sky. No depth, no shadow. Welcome to the sunless noon. You look up, and the sun, if it even is the sun, is frozen at its zenith, a perfect white disk. Too flat, too still. It's bright enough to hurt your eyes, but lacks the flicker, the shimmer, the life of true light. The ground should be hot, but it isn't. Your skin feels neither cool nor warm. You touch a metal sign, it's room temperature. Even the air around you seems to have given up on sensation. And worse, the warmth is gone. This isn't weather. This is pause. We had a call last week from a town caught in this kind of light. The man described it as living inside a photograph of noon. He said laundry stopped drying. Shadows didn't stretch. Solar panels failed, not because of clouds, but because the light was static. One theory suggests that with time frozen, the energy photons can no longer transmit kinetic transfer, meaning they arrive, but they don't move. Here at the station, we've been monitoring solar activity. The sun's radiation appears normal on paper, but the heat index, 0. The result, another, more fringe theory claims we're not seeing the sun at all. A visible sun that does nothing.
What's in the sky is a projection, a memory of the sun's last position, left behind like an afterimage.
Or maybe where it hid. Some believe this is where the sun died. You wander the area. Abandoned cars with melted tires rest in driveways. Lawn chairs sit around a swimming pool, filled with dust instead of water. Everything is in perfect placement. No decay, just stasis. On one front lawn, a garden gnome is pointing upward. A child once must have placed it that way. You imagine them saying, "Look, the sun's stuck," but then checking their watches, and everyone laughing, detached from its tower, upright, alone, then realizing a church bell sits in a nearby field. On the bronze curve, someone carved a message. You approach. Noon should end. It didn't. The ground here is brittle, grass bleached white. You walk carefully. Even the wind, when it moves, feels like it's pushing against glass. In the center of the field, you find a man, not standing, lying flat on his back, staring at the sky. Then ask if he's okay. You hesitate, just trying to see if it blinks. You lie down beside him. He nods slowly and says, "Together." You stare upward. It doesn't pulse. The sun doesn't move. It simply is. We've tried recording the sun from multiple points. The footage is identical every time. The sky, once fluid and infinite, now acts like a painted ceiling. Not even atmospheric lensing. No shift. And beneath it, the world goes on without temperature, without angle, without change.
You think about how often people said, the sun will rise tomorrow.
It was meant as comfort.
Now it's a threat.
But this, because if it rises, it must also fall. This is something worse. This is forever noon, and yet, just a hollow stillness. You don't feel panic. You don't feel anything really. And in that space, beneath the unmoving light, something occurs to you. It's like a held breath that might never be exhaled. Maybe it's not that the sun has stopped. Maybe we've just outlived its motion. You begin to notice something in the way you walk. The light fades behind you, not dimming, just no longer relevant. You cross the edge of that strange sunless field and descend into lower ground, where the air grows heavier and the silence grows more dense. It is not your legs. They move fine. It's the timing. The space between each footfall stretches unnaturally, as if your steps are too far apart, even though your stride hasn't changed. You feel like you're walking normally, but the sound of your boots hitting the dirt is off, lagged, distant.
You tested. Step, pause. Step.
Welcome to the time between footsteps, but no number feels right. You start counting in your head. 3 seconds between steps. 5, 7. You can't tell. Time has become elastic. Please walk slowly. We're still measuring. You pass a signpost. It reads town limit, though the name is illegible, scraped clean. Below it, another hand-painted, not in unison, not robotic, but with a strange slowness that suggests purpose without urgency, as if each motion has been unhooked from momentum. They just glide.
You see people ahead. They're moving through the town like sleepwalkers, heads slightly bowed, arms at their sides. None of them rush, none stop.
We've received descriptions of this in dozens of towns, whole populations adjusting their behavior to accommodate the drag between action and result. It's like walking through a dream where the ground gives permission with delay. One listener wrote, "There are new customs here. People speak one word at a time. Doors are opened in slow motion. A woman waters her garden, but lets the water pour for 4 minutes before moving the spout. Children write in chalk, but each letter takes a minute or more, and no one gets frustrated, because frustration requires impatience, and impatience needs time." You pause near a bench where a man is sitting motionless. He nods once, then doesn't blink for what feels like 10 minutes. Then he smiles and says, "Every action has a waiting room now." You do. He invites you to walk with him. Every few paces, you stop, not on purpose, but because it feels expected. Your steps are in sync, though the rhythm is wrong. Together, you shuffle down a road made of packed salt. You pass a bus stop where a sign reads, "Service arrives one breath after intention." Inside a bakery, a woman is folding dough that never rises, not because she believes it will change. Still, she folds it again, and again. Not spoken, just felt, but because folding is the thing. There are rules here now. Don't move fast. Don't repeat unnecessarily. Don't expect a result. Says e-science team observing this from afar. They're calling it chrono suspension drift. The theory goes that time, without pressure from global systems, begins to stretch thin in low activity zones. Fringe theories call it the exhale. The less urgency, the more slack. You and the man reach a small plaza. The idea that time is breathing out slowly, reluctantly, and we're living in the drawn-out sigh before the next inhale. At its center, a fountain. Of course, hundreds of them, but someone's filled it with paper boats. Each boat labeled with a moment. First laugh, second snowfall, The argument I never ended. The call I made too late. The kiss I didn't return. No one speaks as they walk past. Some add new boats. Some just look. We watch for a while. Some wait until they remember what they meant to write. Then fold. And when you're ready, you fold a slip of paper too. You place it in the dry fountain. It doesn't matter what you write. The boat knows. Your next step takes longer than the last. And step back, but it feels right. The road stretches out ahead, just breathing slow enough to forget its own pace. And with it, the soft rhythm of a world that's not frozen. Then, a ripple. At the top, you hear nothing. There's a hill just ahead, rising gently like the back of some sleeping animal. You climb it without urgency, your feet sinking with the slow rhythm the world has taught you. A chime, a faint harmonic, and realize what's missing.
You step into the ruins of a village.
Anywhere. There are no bells. Welcome to the disappearance of bells. You see the tower first, a spire of brick and brass, weathered but intact. At the top, the bell still hangs, framed in its hollow arch. No wind stirs it. No pull moves it. Even the air around it feels thicker, like time has packed itself into the space, pressing against every sound that might try to form. But it's silent.
You pass a school. There's a rope hanging from the belfry.
You walk through the town slowly. Doors hang open. Windows blink with empty rooms. And yet, nothing feels abandoned, only paused, untouched. Inside, desks are still arranged neatly. Chalk still clings to the board in faint, unfinished curves. You can almost hear children laughing, but it's only memory, and no one has rung the bell. Not since it happened. Elsewhere in the world, people are noticing the same thing. The bells are gone. Not physically, just functionally, but not one of them rings. Churches, town halls, train stations, all still standing, all with their bells intact, even when struck, even when pushed,
Even when screamed at.
We tried ourselves, hung one in our studio, struck it with a hammer. No sound, not even the vibration of metal. One scientist proposed the idea that bells, by design, mark change, passage transitions, endings. Just resistance. They believe bells were the heartbeat of civilization. Others go further, and if time can no longer shift, then bells have nothing left to announce. Not metaphors, actual pulses of collective rhythm that our minds synchronize to their tolls, building shared expectation, and now, without them, we're unraveling, not biologically, but culturally. You find a note pinned to the church door, written in shaky pen. The last time it rang was for a wedding. They never knew they'd be married forever. There's a bench in the square. You sit. The chain dangles loosely from his palm. The lid is open. Across from you, an old man is holding a pocket watch. Inside, a miniature bell. It doesn't move. You ask if it ever did. He shakes his head, says,
It used to chime on the hour. I think it's waiting for an hour that still matters.
They sit in silence together, a slow one. Eventually, he hums a melody. You recognize it, not because you've heard it before, but because it feels like something you would have heard between the bells. The air seems to vibrate faintly, not with sound, but suggestion, the space where a chime should be. We've had letters sent in from all over, mostly handwritten now. People report hearing phantom bells in their sleep, never loud, never near, just distant notes, like memory pressing against silence. They don't mark the hour, they mark feeling. One woman described it perfectly. You rise. It's like the world is still echoing, even though no one struck the bell. There are no bells to call you back. The town doesn't ask you to stay. As you leave, you pass one final door.
If a bell rings in a world without time, will we know when to listen?
Scrawled in chalk beside it, past the bell-less town, the path begins to twist. Not sharply, not dramatically, just enough to make you feel like you're circling something, or being circled. The shadows grow longer, though the light hasn't changed. The trees bend slightly inward, and every once in a while, the wind turns cold for no reason at all. Then you see him, the figure on the path ahead. He steps into a sunbeam that doesn't move, and you see them, tall, thin, walking calmly, as if he's been waiting for you to arrive, not out of intention, but inevitability. Not one shadow. 12.
Welcome to the path of the man with 12 shadows.
They stretch out from his feet like the spokes of a wheel, fanning across the ground in perfect symmetry, each one angled differently, each belonging to a different hour. He stands still, not speaking, not threatening, just present. You approach slowly. He watches you without alarm, and gently he speaks.
You ask him what he means.
They never left. They just didn't agree. He gestures at the shadows. Each one wants to remember a different time. So they all stayed. Your own shadow is flickering.
You look down.
Trying to choose. It stabilizes. You step back instinctively. The man begins to walk again, and the shadows shift with him. Some trailing, some pushing ahead, some spiraling in odd directions. But for a moment, you feel untethered, like part of you was ready to follow one of the shadows away. He tells you he's seen others like him, people caught between times. One woman in the mountains had sunset in her left hand and sunrise in her right. The boy in a fishing village left footprints that aged as he walked, but the communities do. The man explains that this happens to those who linger too long in places with broken temporal identity, places where time fractured instead of stopping. Scientists don't have names for these places. They call them fracture fields. Not hot, not radioactive, just unsettled.
One theory posits that time didn't stop everywhere all at once.
It collapsed unevenly. Those who step into them leave with attachment, and in those torn zones, leftover minutes, hours, even entire days leak out like gas from an invisible tank. Residual fragments, ghosts of when. Some manage to shake them off. Others learn to live in many times at once. The man points to his 12 shadows. Each one, he says, leads to a different version of him. He offers to walk with you for a bit.
You agree?
I'm always going somewhere I've already been, but never at the same moment. A bird sits on a branch, mid-flap. Together, you pass through a grove where time feels even stranger. A puddle ripples without source. You smell something sweet, then bitter, then gone. The man explains. Here, you feel what you used to feel, not what you're feeling. You believe him. You walk in silence for a while. Then he stops at a fork in the path. His shadows begin to shift again, and this time, one of them breaks off. Not fades, detaches. It moves down a side trail on its own, curling around the rocks like smoke that remembers a shape. He watches it go, doesn't follow, doesn't flinch, just says, that one was waiting to be let go. You ask him what happens if they all leave. He smiles gently. And then maybe I'll finally be just one person. Then he turns and keeps walking, 12 shadows fanning out again beneath his boots. You don't follow. You wait until your own shadow is still. One body, one light, and then you continue forward. One time. For now, the air ahead changes. It isn't colder or warmer. It's lighter, Like everything has been thinned out. Even your breath feels stretched, like you're inhaling not just oxygen, but space. The ground beneath your feet becomes fine, powdery, not quite sand, not quite dust. You're somewhere vast now. You reach a plateau, and there, caught in a gustless breeze, the air shimmers faintly, like something invisible is moving through it. Then you see it, a spiral, in the dust, not formed by wind, or foot, or tire. It spins upward, gently, slowly, a whirl of particles, suspended in time.
Welcome to the hourglass of sandless air.
You step into it. The world softens. No resistance, no pushback. Just drift. This isn't weather. You remember how hourglasses worked. Sand falling, second by second, a physical representation of time escaping. This is memory. But here, there's no sand. Only air that behaves like it once held something. You raise your hand. The shimmer follows it. We've received footage from other travelers in zones like this. In deserts, in valleys, in empty lake beds. Places where the atmosphere begins to act like sand's ghost. Not instantly delayed, like even motion is waiting for permission. Where every movement leaves no trace, but still suggests presence. A scientist from Chile believes these are temporal vacuum zones, where entropy once moved, but now waits. One recording showed a man walking across a dry plain. As he passed, the air behind him swirled faintly, not disturbed, just curious. She theorized that these air spirals are time's exhalation, that we are standing inside the breath after the last hour, and yet people feel drawn to them. One man spent 3 days standing in the same dust spiral. He said it was the only place he felt timeless and known at once. Fringe thinkers claim these hourglass zones are doorways, not to other places, but to unmeasured moments. That, if you remain still long enough inside one, you'll hear the universe whisper a memory, not your own. You try now, just for a moment. You close your eyes. The air brushes your cheek, and you hear something. Not a voice, not music, just a low hush. You open your eyes. A sound like falling sand, recorded in reverse. The shimmer around you is tighter now, wrapped like a cocoon. You lift your foot to step away. It takes longer than it should, like the air is reluctant to let you go. You move slowly, respectfully, out of the spiral. It releases you without resistance, but you feel it lingering on your skin, like soft static, still spinning upward. You look back. The dust swirl is still there, still empty, still beautiful. And on the edge of the spiral, carved lightly into the ground with a stick, or maybe just a finger, a single phrase remains. I watched the last second fall. You breathe in. The air is heavier here, but clearer too, including time. Like everything unnecessary was removed. You descend from the plateau with no expectation of reaching anything. The world by now has taught you not everything leads somewhere, and sometimes the arrival is simply noticing you've stopped. But this time, something does shift. Not the light, not the temperature, the feeling, subtle, rhythmic, like a long, slow heartbeat you hadn't noticed until it grew louder. There's a vibration under your feet. Welcome to the return of the first hour. You pause and crouch to the ground. Press your palm against the soil. It's not shaking. It's pulsing.
Like the planet is remembering something. Not entirely, not all at once, but just enough to try.
In the distance, windmills turn gently. Water drips from a pipe that was dry yesterday. A crow calls once, and for the first time in now how long, You hear an echo, return at the right moment, not late, not early, just on time. We felt it here too. In the studio, our lights flickered, not in chaos, but in sequence, a rhythm, a flick, 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 pause, flick, and then the broadcast clock, not the digital one, not the software, but the ancient analog dial above the booth, ticked. Once, the needle moved, only slightly, but it moved somewhere, something reset.
Not back to before, not all the way, just back to something.
Small things. We've heard reports from others. A woman's tea kettle whistled again. A man's dog barked at precisely the same moment he thought about walking it. A child dropped a toy. And for the first time in days, it hit the floor before she flinched. Not miracles, but signs, not returns. Fringe theories abound that the earth has finally exhaled enough to breathe in again. That there was never a collapse, just a long pause between beats. That time is tentative, like a deer entering a clearing, 1 foot at a time. And now we're hearing the next one. Not loud, not confident, but real. They've grown used to the stillness, to a world without urgency.
Some people are terrified.
One voice message we received said, "If time starts again, I don't know if I'll remember how to live in it." Others feel hope, and some, like you, simply observe. You notice a leaf fall. The trees around you begin to shift, ever so slightly. The first in what might have been months. You don't reach for it. You just watch it drift.
Like the world is finding its metronome again.
And as it lands, soft and final, you feel a weight in your chest ease. The pulsing continues, steady now, faint, but rhythmic. You take a step forward. This time, your foot lands when it should. Not before, just here, not after. You smile, and somewhere behind you, a bell rings. Once. You follow the sound of the bell until it fades, not because it stops ringing, but because you've walked beyond its reach. The path beneath your feet feels different now, not faster, not firmer, just awake. You don't look back. The wind shifts, a vibration, softly like it remembers your name. And ahead of you, the landscape bends, not sharply, but gently, like a bowing head. The air thickens with something familiar. A hum. You place your hand on your chest and feel your own heartbeat. It matches the rhythm beneath your feet. For the first time in forever, you feel synchronized. Welcome to the moment when the clocks begin to breathe. You round a hill and see it. Lights on in the windows, smoke rising from chimneys. A town not in chaos, not in celebration, just presence, stillness, with motion. You step into the street. People are sitting on porches, not talking, just sharing the quiet. One woman is winding a watch. Not because it works, just because it's ritual. Across the road, a young boy holds a timer in his palm, eyes closed. You watch the needle twitch, then hold still, then twitch again. A second passes.